What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So we have 3 days before a potential crisis, but the crisis is already up and coming. I want to address what's going on because even though this is mainly targeting another country, it is going to ultimately impact us here in the United States. So I want to address what's happening. We're also going to talk about the news coming out just yesterday that the Senate is going to vote on the China semiconductor bill. They want to do that today. I want to address what's going to be discussed and the reports out of Bloomberg showing what is actually in this bill. So I want to address that. We're also going to talk about President Biden and his plan to pass the Build Back Better Act, because right now there is a lot of movement. There's a lot of discussions that, hey, let's get something going. Let's see some bill pass so we can get that momentum to eventually pass more bills. Well, we'll see if that happens, but I want to address what's being discussed as of right now. And if you have questions on any of this stuff, please ask your questions down in the comment section below. All I ask is if you can spend just 2 seconds, go ahead, hit that like button, and also consider subscribing so you never miss an update. Let's get right down to it. What's happening in just 3 days? Well, here's what I can tell you. The major problem, again, in just 3 days, what we are going to see is that the scheduled maintenance that is being done to the Nord Stream pipeline into Germany, this is scheduled to end. It was a 10-day maintenance period. It is going to end in just 3 days on July 22nd. Now, when this scheduled maintenance is supposed to end on July 22nd, this was going to be something that Germany and most of Europe really worried about. And the reason why is because the problem that they had was the pipeline was going to be temporarily shut down. It has been for the past 7 days. But here's the problem now. The problem is that the Russian energy company, Gazprom, they're declaring force majeure. They're citing that they can't guarantee the pipeline's good functioning. So they're saying that the turbines and other things could be an issue and that they may have to halt any oil, for the foreseeable future. Now, this is a major disaster that Europe has been worried about for quite some time. Because if Russia cuts off Europe, then Europe will need to look elsewhere for its oil. This means that the supply that the rest of the world is currently using will be even in higher demand, which means prices are going to go back up. Good news is gas prices have been going down. Gas prices have been dropping here in the United States. The problem is they could go up fairly quickly if this thing does happen, which as of right now looks like is going to happen. Now, here's why this is such a big deal. Currently, Europe is experiencing a massive heat wave. Companies are already sending out letters and informing their customers that they're going to be planning, to limit power. They're going to limit power to, things like pools. They're going to dim street lights. They're going to put a cap on how high a resident can keep their thermostats. Just think, if let's say you really want to stay warm in the wintertime, and you put your thermostat at, let's say, 75. I don't know what a lot of people do. I think mine's right about 70. Now, if you really want to stay warm and you want to up it to like 80, right? That could be a problem. Because just think if the United States said, you know what? You cannot put your thermostat any higher than 65 degrees. What if it's really cold outside and you are freezing? What happens then? Get a blanket. Buy another heater. But you cannot turn up your thermostat. Big issue. Now, for those of us in the United States that are wondering, well, how is this going to impact us? Well, here's how it impacts us. The United States is obviously going to go and help Europe in any way that we can. This means we're going to send more oil. We're going to ensure that Europe is able to at least last until they can find a new source, right? But this also means Europe is going to be competing for the same oil that us here in the United States are competing for. Again, major problems. Just to give you an idea how much oil Europe actually consumes, last year they consumed about 398 billion cubic meters of oil, of which 155 billion came from Russia. So almost half of all their oil is coming from Russia. So just know that the U.S. is going to have to step in at some point in order to help. And this means that if this happens, again, we have 3 days until we really know, but the expectation is Europe is going to be cut off. Specifically, Germany is going to be cut off. So we're going to see what happens. But again, in the next week or two, we could see gas prices start going back up. So just be aware of that. Now, let's talk about this Chinese semiconductor bill, because the U.S. Senate is going to vote on this today. According to reports, the voting on legislation to boost U.S. semiconductors and improve competitiveness against China is going to happen today. The Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, he says that the Senate needs to move quickly and that legislation is expected to include $52 billion in subsidies for the industry. It's going to include a tax credit for companies that manufacture semiconductors in the United States as well. So, a little bit of a benefit there, a tax credit. Don't know exactly how much, but we will see. And Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer also said, and I quote, "Without these incentives from Congress, the capital investment required for expanding production is not economically viable in the United States, given other global alternatives." This is what Republicans have been saying for quite some time, is that if we do not increase the investment into companies here in the United States, if we don't give them a reason economically to stay in the United States, to produce here in the United States, to sell in the United States, we're going to go elsewhere. And yesterday I said, I talked about how one of my businesses that I was pretty much my main business back in 2019 and before was I'd buy products from China and I'd ship them to the United States and I'd sell them on Amazon. This is what a lot of people do. Now, I want to talk about that for a second because economically, I wouldn't have been in business if I bought products from the United States. If I bought products that were manufactured here in the United States, because they would have been much more expensive. I wouldn't have made any profit, which meant I wouldn't have been a business. I wouldn't have done it. And so for me, it just made sense. I have to go to China. I have to look at other countries, what they can manufacture for me. They'd manufacture it, they'd package it all up, they'd ship it to me here in the US, right? I'd get it, I'd go through the products or whatever, I'd send it off to Amazon, Amazon would sell it, then when the product's sold, it got to the customer, I'd make my money. Great business. But again, it's all because I was able to go to China and get the products. So, I'm just saying, that's kind of where things are at. But I want to address this because not only does what's going on right now, okay? Not only does this Chinese semiconductor bill, not only does it provide $52 billion to chip manufacturers, and again, we need to increase our competitiveness against China, but we also need to do more here in the United States. Not just to get away from China, but to get away from other countries as well. But this $52 billion that's going to go to chip manufacturers, this money also includes $500 million for an international secure communications program. It includes $200 million for worker training, and it also includes $1.5 billion for public wireless supply chain innovation. At least that's according to the reports from Bloomberg. So we'll see what happens today, but the expectation is we are going to vote on this today, and the expectation is it will potentially pass. Again, there's some issues here because this is supposed to be a bipartisan bill. The problem is Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell doesn't want to vote on this, pass this bill, just to see that the Democratic Party comes in and passes parts of President Biden's Build Back Better Act through a budget reconciliation. So, where are we at with that? Well, let's talk about that. Because President Biden wants to see his Build Back Better Act passed. But as of last week, he's pretty much conceded that the bill would be much less than what he originally planned. The goal as of right now is to pass legislation that would limit pharmaceutical prices, right? And just instead of them increasing prices, it would have to stay with inflation. This bill would also extend expiring subsidies to the Affordable Care Act, and it would also reduce the federal deficit ever so slightly. That's the plan. And this is a very simple plan. Let's bring down pharmaceutical for drug prices, right? This is something that many lawmakers have been pushing for because they say that inflation is hurting the American people. So let's give them something back. Well, not everybody uses prescription drugs, right? A lot of people do, but not everybody does. So it's going to help those that actually use it. Those are mainly going to be seniors, some elderly individuals. That's going to be who uses this a little bit more. But again, they need some relief because lately in the past 2 years, seniors have been getting screwed, have been getting absolutely screwed. Here's the problem. Democrats know that they can pass this bill without a single Republican vote. They can do it. They can do it in the Senate with the budget reconciliation. However, Republicans are arguing that this is an inflation issue, not a pharmaceutical issue. And Republicans are arguing that if inflation was under control, the price increases that we are currently seeing would not be an issue. And that's part of the problem. And that's where Republicans are saying if you are going to vote on this through a budget reconciliation, we are not going to vote on the $52 billion semiconductor bill. It's just not going to happen. So we're going to see what happens today because the expectation is, again, the Senate's going to vote on this bill today. If it doesn't pass, that means Democrats are going to have to pretty much come to the negotiation table, figure out where they stand, what they can do to try to get Republicans on board. The problem is there might not be anything they can do. So we're going to see what happens moving forward. But as always, as I know more, I promise, I'll come back on and share all latest news and updates. Again, just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.